if you look at the call for adequate representation and true representation, people would say, well, if I'm someone living with disabilities, you don't know what I go through on a daily basis. Even if you studied it, you still can't understand what I go through. The same way it is for someone that has gone ahead to study the Yoruba language. You can't possibly know everything about that particular language or culture of its people, except you are also from that part of town. So that is why those who have argued for nationalities to be represented there are saying that they should be, yes, they should be represented. Because if we take from Professor Nwabueze's talk, he's seen the lapses in the assemblies, in the National Assembly over time. He's seen the lapses in adequate representation from politicians. And that is why they say, for the first time, if we want to move ahead and forge ahead, now that we have been listening to by this particular administration for a call for a conference like this, we should do it. The way they say, anything worth doing is worth doing well. So why can't we allow it to go the way of the majority?
Who said it's the way of the majority? When did you take a sample to know that this is what everybody wants? Because the professor, the level professor said so. And when you say ethnic nationalities, this is supposed to be one nation. I mean,
supposed to be.
It is one nation.
It's supposed to be. Is it one nation?
It is one nation.
Aren't we divided in a way? That is why we are talking
about a conference?
It is one nation. We are talking about how to improve.
Even in Dr. Pearse, even in our jokes among comedians, there are so many jokes being passed, but if you look at it critically, those are not jokes. It is to ridicule one group or tribe or the other against the other, but we just laugh over them sometimes, and we just bask in the euphoria of some kind of comic relief. So it tells you that there's a problem somewhere.
There are challenges, and these challenges are what we deal with on a daily basis. Every nation has its own challenges, every single nation. Differences of all sorts exist in every nation. And you don't say because you have these differences, you're not going to stay together as a country. This is my worry, that we should understand that we have a nation. All we're trying to do is to improve the workings of this nation. And we don't have to go back to questioning whether we have a nation. There's a difference between the two.
Yeah, but Dr. Pearse, as much as one would now subscribe to merit, not ethnicity, as a basis for doing so many things to move us forward, but the reality on ground is you have people like Professor Nwabueze who think that ethnic nationalities should have a main say, or this conference should be about that. He also said, look, that was the defining factor. That's the basis of this country, how we came together in the first place. But we also have people who have subscribed to your view who say, Khalid, for instance, says he believes strongly on the discussion of the structure of the country, not the division. But how do you convince people who think it should be based on ethnic nationality? Because if they begin to grow in number, and then the conference starts and ends, and they still think that the conference has not addressed the main issue,
there is no way you can satisfy everybody at such a conference. It's a large country. There will be people with the professor's opinion, and there will be people with our opinion. The structure of the conference is in place. There are going to be 492 delegates, and they come from every walk of life, and from those people who come from every walk of life, you are going to have different ethnic groups. So, I mean,
that's what I was just going to ask you. Let me perhaps let's just pop in the question here. What we're already beginning to see, many ethnic groups, coming up with an agenda for the conference. Now, do you see a situation where, at that particular conference, these professional bodies begin to break into or begin to aggregate into ethnic groups? Do you think that will happen? And what danger will be there if that happens?
Well, the danger will be discussing the breakup of the country. So it's not going to happen.
Why do you think that the ethnic nationalities are represented, that the breakup of it is going to be? Because a lot of people believe instead that people are going to be focusing more on the money. We already know the goose that lays the golden egg, that they come from a particular region, not from a particular professional body. Don't you think that that would instead be the fulcrum of the discussion?
The discussion is going to be around key issues that concern all of us in the country. One, I'm very sensitive to, and I give the president real kudos for having the courage to put up this conference. One, the question of devolution of powers. We're going to discuss it. Very sensitive. So the concern that people have that one ethnic group is dominating the other is going to come there. Then the revenue sharing formula is going to be discussed. Again,
these professionals,
by the people who are there. They're not just professionals. They are youth groups, they are women groups, they are NGOs. There are so many different groups.
Okay, Dr. Tell us, what will be the key difference if this group discusses all these issues?
Sure.
And then if you were to have ethnic nationalities discuss these issues, what would be the distinguishing difference or factor?
Well, when you begin to talk about ethnic nationalities, you're beginning to talk about ethnicity being the main focus of the conference. In other words, Igbo interest, Yoruba interest.
Is ethnicity interest? Is it bad?
Well, listen to what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is that good or bad?
I'm asking you.
Well, I think that is not the way we want to go.
Because if you're able to put this, some people will say that it's about negotiation. If we all agree, as you're rightly assuming, that we all want to be, because I mean, someone would say it's an assumption, you're saying we shouldn't even ask the question that we already have a nation. Some people would say that's an assumption. And when did we agree to have a nation?
When we got the nation in 1960, when we got independence from the British in 1960.
Yes, we've seen how things have been. We've heard statements even by our own leaders, you know, of some of the things that they have said that is not exactly national in nature.
All they've done through the years is to try to make it working nation. And that's what we must do. And that's the question now. We cannot go back to ask ourselves whether we have a nation.
Sorry, Doctor. If we can safely assume that,
yes.
Why is it such a terrible thing for us to give it an imprimatur, as it were? Because some people will say that at least that question is put to rest once and for all, and future generations do not have to go back as to when was that question asked, and when did we all agree to say, yes, we want to be a nation.
Who said that we are not a nation now? Is that what the people who want ethnicity in this conference are saying? That we don't have a nation? That we have to ask the question whether we have a nation?
The part of what they're saying, I mean, those of them who have come here, not the ethnic nationalities now, those who perhaps think that we should also discuss the basis of our staying together. They say, look, they're being discriminated against. Some of them are more qualified to hold certain positions, but you find nepotism, tribalism, you have all of these matters which pop up, and that's what's happening in the country on a regular basis. So they think that, look, if these issues were ironed out, it will guarantee and solve a lot of problems.
There is no end to people who will say that they have been discriminated against
on the basis of
the ethnicity.
But is this a reality?
It is not.
It is not?
It is not, because in this country, the National Assembly is represented by people from every ethnic group, right? The Senate, the same thing. Appointments at the federal level, the same thing. You know, sometimes one group will say, oh, we are being discriminated against. And now you go and check, look at the number of appointments that they have. I don't want to mention the ethnic groups now. But think about it. Happens all the time. But you got to keep on negotiating. If you listen to individual complaints, there's no end to it.
So the question is,
there's no end to it.
Who should be doing the negotiation? That's the question.
This is not a question of negotiation. You cannot negotiate.
You said we should keep, well, what you're going to do is keep negotiating.
You must continue to talk about these things. You must continue. If you are individual, if you think you are being discriminated against, you fight for it. You negotiate. This is not something that love cannot be legalized. It cannot be said that we're going to love each other by law. No. It's a continuous effort. You continue to work for it. How can somebody say in this nation, one group is being discriminated against? In this nation?
But Dr. That's the reality on ground.
There is discrimination everywhere in the world, in every workplace.
Okay.
And you must continue to work to improve the relationship. But to say that in Nigeria, one group has, well, the other group is marginalized, no,
Doctor.
But that is not true.
I know what other time.
Look at the number of ministers we have. Look at the positions we have at every level.
Okay. I'm afraid we'll have to let you go. We're out of time. Dr. Adetokunbo Pearse, looking at this matter with us on National Conference. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We'll return after this break. Join us again.